Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast here on beautiful Long Island. My first time being here and getting to hang out with some cool Shed people. John, do you care to just introduce yourself, who you are, and a little bit about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. Welcome to Long Island. This is awesome to be here with you. So I'm John Fealy, and I am the creator of the Shed Academy, which is a program that teaches individuals how to start a shed building business. Through my program, I've had hundreds at this point of people looking for part-time money or perhaps changing careers, and my program provides a pathway to that in a niche that if somebody's handy, interested in carpentry, just looking to change careers, it gives them that ability. I teach them my business model that I've been using for the last 15 years for my own company, Ready Shed. It's a very simplistic business model that, we build on site. We, all the materials bought locally from, either Home Depot or Lowe's. So it's very easily sourced, and the end result is a shed that is very, very good looking, very well built, and provides the, individual with a very, very good profit. So yeah, it's been a great ride, so far. I've had the program released about 3 years ago, and it was just an idea I had, and I knew I could, it's kind of like the, McDonald's story where, you get a system in place that can be repeated, and I bring that whole system, alive within my course. So at the end of it, people are like, yeah, I know how to make those hamburgers. I think I could do it. I think I could make these milkshakes too.
That's great.
So yeah, it's exactly that. So it's been awesome.
If anybody hasn't had a chance to see that, the movie Founder.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking about. When he had the shake machine, and he was like, how can I make 12 shakes at a time, right? So it's a great movie, and it definitely resonates in that sense for me.
If you're an entrepreneur, it's definitely one on your list.
That's it. That is actually it. And it's just, that is the key I have found in my life to any kind of progress I've ever made is coming up with systems, make things happen. Mm-hmm. And, it's having, a lot of people go through life and they're like, they just don't get it. They're just running around and a little bit of this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And honestly, it's the opposite. You need to set your teeth into one thing and one thing only. And that's how I've, in my life, have made the biggest leaps and bounds in inroads and progress is always in that mindset of saying, all right, what is it that I'm going to do? And that's the only thing I'm going to think about for the next 5 months. So
you have to be that committed.
That is it. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and I see that, play out with people that come into my program, and I do one-on-one coaching with them, and just, by speaking with them, I can usually sum up somebody pretty quick as to like, all right, this is the guy that's gonna make this happen. Yep. Or somebody that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna teach you everything, but I don't know if you have the particular tenacity or perseverance, whatever you want to call it, to actually make this, a success. So that's always the defining, characteristic of people. And that's why, even as I mentioned before this session, I was impressed, with you, and you were very similar to me in a sense of like just saying, I have an idea and I'm not going to do this thing, So, and it's just amazing because we kind of started at the same point. I think I'm maybe 3 years in. You mentioned you were 2 years in. So that's just very cool. And again, when you get like-minded people together, it's very easy time flies and a few hours will go by. Just
right. We've already,
yeah, exactly.
on our conversations previously, we've already burned up some clock.
Yeah.
And anybody who would watch me on a daily basis on the phone, unfortunately, when I'm not talking on a podcast, it's on a phone. But I do really enjoy that because it is relationship building.
Yeah.
And thank you for the kind words. I just feel like, that movie. Was it Michael Keaton who played that Ray Kroc?
Yeah, he did a great job.
He was in the hotel, and he was in, I think it was Belleville, Illinois, outside of St. Louis, as the movie portrays, trying to sell the shake mixer when he called the McDonald's brothers out there in Florida. But he would be at home. This is how much of a weirdo I am, I guess. I'm watching that movie.
Yeah.
And he is listening to, who was it? Nightingale. And he was listening to records of the sales process and how to stay consistent and persevere.
Yeah.
And, I took a screenshot of that and I ordered the same thing that he was listening to.
Yeah.
Even in the movie.
It resonated with you so much.
Because it resonated with me.
There are things in my life that, quotes. I'm crazy with quotes. And, something hangs with me. And I'll be like, that's it. That's and I'll in my mind, I always have maybe 12 quotes that I kind of, tend to grab onto here or there, depending upon the struggle I might be having or success perhaps. But that's how I am as well. I just find that.
So many of my favorites, I'd be curious of yours, and I end up paraphrasing quotes because I actually do a terrible job quoting them in most time.
Yeah.
When life's going good, you hear the music, but when life's going bad, you understand the lyrics.
Yeah, that's right.
Just one of my favorites
all of a sudden,
of all time.
One of mine is I think it's in Gladiator, and the scene is Russell Crowe, and he's in the dark woods, and I think the quote is, what we do in life will, resonates in eternity, right? So it's like, people don't really sometimes understand the significance of one simple action that you can take in a direction, and what that action, that one particular thing you did can actually, how it compounds for you, for your family.
Preach, brother, preach.
Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's the thing. And that's what I try to, I try to, bring to life in my course, in that, I'm applying it to shed building and, that particular thing. But it's like anything. You can change it out to any particular thing. But, it's the matter of, here's the steps. Do these steps 1, 2, 3, 4. By the 10th step, you'll have some value that you've learned or whatever that you can now execute. And same, the other one, of course, is buy a man. I think, again, maybe not perfect, but buy a man a fish. You'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish. He'll eat for a lifetime, right? Yeah. So it's that same kind of thought process. It's like, I'm teaching them how to actually, make a living or, for their family. And, I take that very, very seriously. That it's more than just like, oh yeah, buy my course, that's great. I'm gonna take my wife out to dinner.
Right.
This is your money. That's never my mindset. It's like no. Of course I charge for it because I couldn't be providing it otherwise. But
no, but are you telling me you want to make a living
right,
off
exactly.
of what you do?
But with that said, it changes. I have
sure.
Emails and texts from guys are like, John, this is crazy. What happened to my life after I did this, changed everything. So that's where the value or the reward comes, back,
sure.
When you hear those kinds of things.
Well, when there's so many good quotes, probably from that movie Gladiator and so many others. Yeah. And they really do resonate with people. You are one decision away from changing your life.
That is exactly
and that decision might be taking that leap of faith to start that business, to begin that journey, and to figure out what that looks like for yourself and how that can help your family.
Yep.
I love the creative mindset that you took and you approached whenever you filled a space that was waiting for someone to fill it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how things happen. And, when you think you start something, no matter what it is, you have a particular result in mind. But sometimes things take fire, and you stand there. You're like, wow, I never realized there was all that kindling behind what I just started, because it just takes on a life of its own. So it's been a great time, great ride, and helping a lot of guys.
So I'm assuming you grew up here on the island.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to high school here. My whole life, born here. Met my high school sweetheart, I guess you could call it. Got married very young, and have 2 children in their 30s now, both married. And yeah, I just recently became a grandfather. I should say,
congratulations.
Somewhat recently, a year and a half ago. But that's that puts your whole world in a completely different dimension when that occurs. If you're lucky enough to have it occur.
Sure. Yeah. No, me and my wife will be looking forward to it. None anytime too soon.
Yeah, I get it.
But we will be looking forward to it. My daughter will be getting married in June of this year.
That's so
but
great.
our story is very similar. I met my wife at 15, married at 19, and then 2 kids.
Yes.
And here I am all the way in Southern Illinois, and you're on Long Island. But gosh, we're kind of living that same life, just in different places, right?
It's so funny how yep. Very, very similar paths.
So what kind of got you? You mentioned Ready Shed, so you sort of started Ready Shed before Shed Academy. So what was Ready Shed like? What was the start of that? Were you always in sheds, or what led you to that?
Absolutely not. I nothing of sorts. When I graduated high school, I didn't go to college. However, I aligned with a guy that
we're more alike still yet.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I always was very much business entrepreneurial minded. So a man approached me. I actually was pumping gas for his son and at a gas station when I was 18. And he says, my dad has a business and he's looking to retire. And, I told him about you and, maybe you want to talk to him. I said, okay, that's cool. So I met with this guy. And what he had was a little business that he peddled electrical connectors, like, crimp-on type connectors and cable ties and all kinds of electrical things out of his van, like a peddler sort of. And he'd go to gas stations and he would pull up and say, hey, you guys happen to need any fuses or wire or cable ties? And sure enough, usually most guys are, yeah, you know what, actually I could use a roll of wire. Give me the 18 gauge black roll and I need some fuses and a bag of cable ties. So, all right, you left there and there was an $85 sale. But if you do that all day long, going to all gas stations, you wind up at the end of the day with $1,000 worth of sales. So he was looking for someone to run he had 2 vans. One of the gentlemen was retiring. So he says, would you like to take over for him? And it's a commission. I said, okay. This sounds like good. I'm 18. Sounds like fun to me. I'm going to drive around a van. Just all I got to do is pull into these places. So sure enough, I was very good at it. Some days I'd go out and I would actually not just do gas stations. I would actually go into big companies, and try to find the buyer. And I was always elevating it to the next level. And I'd come back and he'd be like, well, what'd you do today, John? I said, I did $5,800 worth of sales. And at that time, I was getting 25% commission.
Oh, wow.
And he just stared at me like what the heck is with this kid? So anyway, that went on for quite a while. And then he was in his late 60s, and he wanted to retire and sell the business. So I said, well, let me buy you out. Let me buy the company from you, and I'll pay you out of my weekly pay the amount. And I think at that time we agreed on it was $40,000 for the business, whatever. So I said, all right, well, over the next year or so, 2 years, I'll pay you. Instead of paying me that 25% commission, let's set an amount that will come out of my check every week. So anyway, long story short, yeah, I did that, and I paid the man and wound up with this business, 2 trucks, all of his inventory, rented a small space, and built the company from there. So it went from a garage business with 2 vans, and then I built it to, over the next 25 years in that company, up to, we were at the peak, we're doing about $4 million a year, and we had a 20,000 square foot building, And it became, a real business, we had about at that time, I think 12 employees. So anyway, long story short, selling those parts with the introduction of Amazon and how Amazon was growing, it killed my business. Business
several businesses.
Yes, I
sure.
built, from 18 years old. At that point, I think I was in my, 42, perhaps, and I had provided a great living for my family, beautiful home, all this type of stuff. But anyway, it was not viable any longer. So I had to reinvent myself. I had to come up with some other business because that's all I know how to do. I've never worked for anybody in my life. So I came up with this idea that I could build a shed in a systematic way that my goal was to be able to build it in one day, just prep everything prior to the build, drive to the site, and build that shed in one day. And I started running ads. Anyway, going back to my other business, I made a deal with my partner. I had a partner in that company. He stayed, I left. It was really just, handshake kind of thing. I'm like, listen, I always want to go in a different direction. So that's what happened. But anyway, so I just threw up some ads on, I think at the time, Craigslist was the thing. You know what I mean? There was no Facebook and Marketplace. There wasn't anything like that. So I just, Craigslist, sheds for sale, built on site, any size, blah, blah, blah. Well, I remember that I placed that ad, and within 2 or 3 days, I had about 18 people call me for sheds.
Oh, wow.
So here I am, I have this little setup in my garage, and I'm like, I'm building, on weekends at that time solely. So I was building literally a shed every weekend, but I was making so much more money than I had made prior to when I was taking my salary out of the other company. I was like, I'm making twice the amount of money building these sheds. So I, went in that direction. My wife said, you thought I was insane, you're never going to make a living building sheds, are you crazy? So long story short, at least a small shop, got everything jigged up, everything exactly how my vision, was playing in my mind. I made it happen in a small shop. Bought a box truck, named the company Ready Shed, which was a cool name at the time, for a domain. Made a slick website, and there it was. I started, and I've never looked back. And it's probably been like 17 years now total. But yeah, it's been a great thing. I love to do so much better than my original 25 years in the other company, where I was so stressed every day going to work. I had this ache in my stomach knowing that how much money were we going to lose this month. It was just sitting at a desk, strapped to a desk, waiting for people to call, place orders. It was not realizing that I didn't realize at the time, but really wasn't suited for me at all. But so sometimes you land on your feet, and here I am.
Well, you've done great. And then through those years at Ready Shed, what brought forth the thought to say, I'm looking for entrepreneurs out there who might want to sort of follow the same path that I took to ownership, to be able to own a company,
right,
and learn how to build sheds?
Mm-hmm. It was just in the sense of over the years in the perfection of the system. And that's really what led me to say, hey, we've got this down so systematic that in the simplicity of the business model, in the sense that you can source all the materials from any local Home Depot or Lowe's. So there's nothing, very exotic in the materials that need to be, you need. And I said, let me just, in my mind, I'm like, maybe I could, write an ebook or something like that, where I could actually document our process. But I'm like, I'm better at video and like managing that kind of thing and speaking in that sense. So I started, a platform that is a course creative platform that I signed up for. I remember shaking, saying, this is, I think it was $149 a month to get on this platform. And I I remember at the time, $149 seemed like a lot of money, so to spend every month. But anyway, again, did it anyway, no matter what. I'm the type of person that just once I get locked on something, I make sure it happens. So, and it took me, oh goodness, what was strange about it is when I first started, I sold the course before I made the course, which sounds a little scary.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I had a mailing list of people that were coming to my website, which I own shedbusiness.com, which is a pretty cool domain. So shedbusiness.com, if you go there, there's a thing you can sign up for, which is a free shed building business workshop. Anyway, so by doing that free workshop, people signed up. And I think at the time when I launched the course, I had like 150 people on my list, a very small list. But when I announced that the program I was going to provide would be, I threw a date out in the future. I said, I'm going to tell them it's on this date. It was 6 weeks from that point. If you want to sign up, you can. So anyway, out of that 130 people on that mailing list, I had the first time I launched that, I opened the course, I had 18 people sign up. So with that in mind, I'm like, all right, I got to actually make this course. Now I have 18 people that paid me for it. So I began to create the content. It's 8 modules for every aspect of the shed building business, whether it be, the setting up your business structure, how to do that, how to set up your accounting system, how to set up your scheduling system, how to, go into your sales and marketing and all that. It's actually more to it than probably half the course is more about that stuff rather than the actual build. The build is a simple part, really. But it's getting yourself set to do the build is what takes some time. But anyway, that's just, how it went. And then I opened up each module every week. So as it was opening up, in my mind, I'm like, I only have to do 1 week or 2 weeks filmed, and then I can start opening it. And they were like chasing me, and I was making the content before the deadline of the 7 days was up. So it was this crazy process. But in the end, because of all that pressure, it resulted in an incredible program, which I've refined over the years, of course, from that initial variation. But at this point, yeah, it's super, super clear, super, systematic as the business model I teach. And it's helped, as I mentioned, hundreds and hundreds of guys start their business and doing very, very well.
Sometimes keeping the vision fluid and being able to change it so quickly on the go. Mm-hmm. As business owners, one thing that I've noticed a lot of people want is guarantees.
Yeah.
Guaranteed on advertising, guaranteed on their marketing, guaranteed sales, guaranteed,
of course.
Product, service.
Yeah, right.
And some things are just imperfect, hard to perfect, hard to measure. All of those things play a real role in it. So getting started like you did, you took a leap of faith, you took a chance. I would say the same for the podcast was a labor of love, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's where it comes from. It definitely comes from your heart in a sense of like, this is my thing. It's my wheelhouse. Yeah. No one's going to stump me. Nobody's like,
you're going to keep on.
I own this thing. So that's where you have to begin from, because from that, actually is where everything is,
you have to, you have to keep going at all costs. And whenever you've got 6 weeks to build it, you put the pressure on yourself for sure to perform.
You have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's great. Yeah. So now you have eight modules. It's come a long way since then. So you've got like this nice little office space. For those who are viewing today, they can probably see in the background where you do some of your videos. And just beyond to our right here is the shop where you build the shed, create a lot of the video content around that. Yeah, it's
kind of like my studio / workshop. So, this is 2,000 square feet office space, which I do a lot of the, actual, in front of camera or type videoing with PowerPoint presentations in the classes. And then in my shop is where I film all the like techniques, and this is how, whatever it happens to be, this is the floor, this is how we build it. Again, this business model is only one design. It's only one design that can be configured in any way, meaning doors, windows, whatever can be put anywhere. We limit our upgrades to painting, sidewall height, 6.5, 7 or 8 feet tall. It is what it is. In other words, it will appeal. It's the 80-20 rule I apply here. It'll appeal to 80% of a customer that's looking for a shed, and I don't care about the other 20%. That's not my business. My business is to provide something that's very attractive, very well built, and it is what it is. It doesn't have that people say, oh, do you vinyl side it? No, I don't vinyl side them. I don't, because it's another day, and I could have built another whole shed in that day. So if you want it vinyl sided, you're not my customer. I can't, that's not our business model.
You've got your template.
That's it. This is what it does. We chug them out. And I always say to people, go to my website. You'll see the images. If that shed you're seeing in those images is what you want in your brain, then me and you are, we're good. We're a good match. But if it's not happening.
What is your website?
Well, it's readyshed.com.
Okay.
So that's, the current business.
So you still build sheds some, or you primarily
I backed off.
do?
I have a partner, Rob, but him and I were the two guys that were out there in the box truck, and we would knock out 3 sheds a week. Since I started the Shed Academy, of course, that's taken a lot of my energy and time. So we kind of separated in a sense, not in a sense of like we're still associated with each other, but he does the bulk of the builds now with his son, and I kind of backed off. And I may knock out a shed a week, sometimes one shed every couple weeks. I take the smaller builds and I do them solo. Just keeps me active out there, keeps me in with the pulse of identifying with, of course, my students. I post a lot of videos in our Facebook group. We have a private group, and I'm out on a build, whatever tip I can add to them and value in that sense. It's really helpful to be actually active in building.
So do you you sort of attribute your time at Ready Shed to what gave you the idea? What do you feel like you hear most from entrepreneurs seeking to get into shed building? Because primarily what you do is a lot of on-site builds, which, a lot of people don't realize outside of the United States, that's actually very common. We don't have a well-organized shed hauling industry, and the systems are just different. So on-site builds are common, and they seem to be getting more and more common even among the portable building manufacturers.
Yeah.
What do you see for that entrepreneur coming to you and wanting to get involved in that business? And what advice do you give them?
Well, first thing is people, I give the availability to schedule a call with me if they were interested in the program. So on those calls, there's a number of questions I immediately ask, of course, where are you located? And I always ask them their population in the area, because that is also a determining factor of whether or not you'll succeed. My rule of thumb is to look at a 50-mile radius from wherever you are, and I always say a really healthy market is to have 500,000 people in a 50-mile radius. That, I don't care how many competitors there are in that kind of population, you as an individual will always capture, 50 to 100 sheds a year without any sweat. It's not anything that's that significant. And for an owner-operator type builder, it is significant, because hey, if you could build 100 sheds at $35,000 to $4,000 each, that's $400,000 worth of sales, right? So you're making yourself a really good living. So that's one of the questions. The next question is, what do you do for a living now? And I've had people that say, well, I've been an insurance salesman my whole life, and I'm just thinking that this might be something, I'm looking for a change. And I always say, well, that's cool, but shed building is not glamorous, and shed building is not easy. You're going to sweat. It's going to be cold. You're going to have, you're going to have sawdust in every crevice of your body, every nostril, So, I try to forewarn them. And again, I'm looking for this to succeed for them. Definitely not in the sense of like, oh, I don't care, sign up. I am
Right,
the
yeah.
last person that's going to sell anybody anything. It has to work for them first. And then if it does, the same thing as the thought of the shed design I have. It's either it works for you or it doesn't. But with that said, we go through that process, and a lot of the guys, they are looking for part-time income. It's just like, I have a job and I do have extra. I work from home, whatever it might be, that they have that flexibility of a couple days free. And they're like, hey, if I could build a couple sheds a month and carve out an extra $3,000 or $4,000 in profit, into my budget at the end of the month, that changes my whole life, and but then I have people from other shed building, I don't want to name names, but anyway, they build for larger outfits, and they're just frustrated because, the amount of, what they get for building one of these sheds after the day is over they almost like, they can't believe it. They're like, you got to be kidding me. For the last 5 years, I've been getting paid whatever, and I could actually be making this. So, that's kind of sheds a little light on the margin or the profit margins within sheds. So yeah, it fits a particular guy that's usually handy. It's usually has a great deal of tools already, carpenter, handyman, that kind of person, or just interested in that. And usually I always say it's good, of course, to have a pickup truck, because you're going to need at least a pickup truck. I've talked to guys guys call me sometimes, and they live in an apartment building, and they drive a Toyota, whatever, Corolla or something. So I'm like, wait, man, you're not going to be building sheds in this particular arrangement you got going here. Oh, I know, but I just thought maybe. I'm like, I don't know. I don't see that happening with the 2x4s on top of your four-door
strap
sedan.
them across the top of the car.
So,
yes.
Those kinds of things happen as well. But for the most part, it's a particular person they just want to get out there. They enjoy building. They love this idea. And at the end of the day, you look back and when you're cleaning up your tools and you say, wow, look at this. This thing's going to be here for the next 30 years. This family's going to have barbecues. They're going to be, kids are going to be running inside and out of this. They're going to remember this shed for the rest of their life. And it's a good feeling. Yeah.
What's the most surprising thing that you've had happen with Shed Academy in the 3 years since you started it, good or bad? What kind of caught you off guard? And you said, I just didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, one thing happened, which was not good. It was a guy that signed up for my program, and part of the program is I send them a portfolio book, and there's invoices and things like that come with the package. But anyway, he used this name essentially and took deposits from people, just literally. That use my images, use all this stuff. He wound up not, his payments didn't go through for me. But anyway, he had the content that I taught him, and was able to kind of go around in his area. And I had like 5 people say, so-and-so was here. He took $2,000 deposit on a shed and never came back. You know what I mean? So that's bad. You say, here you are trying to help somebody, get on their feet or whatever it might be, but they used it in a really bad way. So that can happen. You have all, there's no, background check. Let's face it, somebody coming, into my program. So I don't know every single individual. But that was bad. But then the flip side of it is, I have guys that literally were being, on their, behind on their mortgage 3 months, they're going through the worst situation ever financially. They signed up, took that leap of faith, of course, they scrounged up a couple $100 to get into my program. And within the first year, I've had them, again, message me saying, this was sent from heaven, this particular thing for me, because it provided for my family. It got me out of the hole I was in. I have a new truck. I just bought a new, dual wheel, 14-foot, your trailer, and it's just like, to see that just makes it everything worthwhile.
Great. Yeah. No, that's really good. So take me through the course. I'm someone, I see your ads all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm happy about that because I spend a lot of money on those ads. So
I suspect others do too when I'm on
Yeah.
Facebook, because you do
Sure.
just a great job of, and so I've certainly looked at the ads before, and again, glad we were able to connect and all through that. But take me through the course. If someone sees that ad or comes into contact with Shed Academy somehow, what does it look like from start to finish?
So what you're signing up for initially, I have 3 different opportunities. I have the base course, which I call the master class, which is just the entire program, 120 pages of plans, printouts, lesson content, over 100 videos in 8 modules that takes you through the entire process. So in other words, once you enroll in the course, you'll immediately get a password sent to you. You're going to log into the platform, and the platform will have modules, and the modules will be a particular subject, and that subject is what I teach, whatever the happens to be. Initially, module 1 is all about business, and how are you going to get how to set up your LLC, your sole proprietorship, whatever it might be, licensing, liability insurance, getting all these things in place, because that these types of things have to be in place if you're serious about being in business. Accounting systems, like you can't be taking $3,000 worth of cash and depositing it into your personal bank account and buying groceries. So you need a separation between your personal life and now this new business entity, which you better understand money in, money out, and did you make money? Did you lose money? Because once you start muddling it with your personal world, you'll never know what's happening to you. You know what I mean? Next thing you know. So that, then marketing. So how to set up your website, how to get it listed on Google and Google My Business so that you come up on the map, so that, let's face it, that is how sheds are found. Shed builders are found. People look at Google, they type in shed builders, shed building near me, where to buy a shed. And then when they hit that button, you're going to see a little listing on a map. And you need to be on that listing, because that's who they're going to call. They're going to call those companies because they're local service companies. If your transmission blows up, you're going to Google transmission shops. And guess what? You're going to call the transmission shop that's closest to you, that has the best review. That's who you're clicking on, going to their website, and will be finding whether or not this works for you. But anyway, so modules, all about that. That's the key, right? The key to the business is having customers find you, and the way they're going to find you is on Google My Business. So anyway, it's a whole thing. So then of course we go into the whole build, the design of the Shed Academy shed, which is designed for speed. That's the whole key here. It's designed to be built fast. Well, but fast. And the design that we use, provides that ability because you're doing a lot of the prep work prior to the build. You're building the doors, you're building the trusses, you're building you're ripping the overhangs, the roof overhangs, cutting down, your roof sheathing. Everything's kind of pre-cut. So when you arrive there, it's pretty much as fast as you can be with that framer. That shed's going up, doors are already hinged. Everything is ready to go. An 8, I always say, usually in any shed up to 100 square feet, so that would include 8 by 12, 10 by 10, let's say 100 square feet, is a day build. Should be a day build. Sometimes it's not. Of course, when they first start, a lot of guys are like, oh, it took me 3 days, and I get it. But I always say, wait till the 20th shed and tell me where you're at. But anyway, and then anything bigger than that, I usually tell them, just schedule 2 days, because this takes the pressure off you. I always tell the customer, listen, this is a 10 by 16. We're going to frame it the first day. The next day, we're going to come back for shingles and trim, and then it's usually like 3 more hours in the second day. But, that's the formula.
That's cool. I would say, I wonder how long it would take for me to do an 8 by 8 shed. I don't know. Maybe I'll take your course one day and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
I built my very own shed way before I knew the shed industry.
Okay.
Right after I got out of a small time in home building, learned the formula.
Sure.
And shrunk it down, obviously.
Yeah.
And built my own shed, and still standing there. I'm very proud that when I drive by there and see it.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
sold the house since then, but the shed's still there.
It's there. That's the nature of sheds. I mean, we demo sheds sometimes as well, and that's, believe me, I know every, who built it. I can, this is one of those, whatever it was. Everybody has their signature on their particular shed. It seems like different builders, but yeah.
It must be interesting. Do you run into kind of getting back to maybe Ready Shed or like just location? Do you run into a lot of trouble or struggles like building on Long Island, like with HOA? Do you kind of curtail the program so that it's geared toward folks who build in a higher populated area?
No, I have all types of people in my program, throughout the entire country. So I am able to see variance in, what people are interested in. Like, I have a guy in California that, California, for some reason, they're big on, like home backyard offices, you know what I mean? More, and there's a company, I think it's Studio Shed. I think they're big out there. But I mean, these structures are like a 10 by 12 studio shed. It could cost $20,000. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just saying, realistically, it's like, it's no joke. But anyway, he went through my program and now has adapted the design more in a sense of like, he gets a big call for people. I need a writing studio. I need a pottery studio, whatever it might be. In California, I guess it's cool. And that's his niche. He just kind of adapted to it. Some areas of the country, metal roofs, are a big thing. Here on Long Island, they're just not. You just don't see them. But I know, down south, that's bigger. HOAs, again, here, no, we don't have very many those types of communities where that's an issue. On Long Island, it's pretty much just private residences, not in a community sense like that. But of course, other areas of the country, yeah, that's, I have guys in our group that, always up against that particular height restriction or whatever it might be, a design, styling, it has to match the whatever, and they work around it. They're able to, zig and zag and get to where they need to be. Usually it's not an issue.
Where do you expect the shed industry's going, and how does Shed Academy fit into that? And in other words, what direction is Shed Academy going to help parallel where the shed industry's going?
Well, it's interesting in that sense. The shed industry, I don't, again, it's not my forte. I've come at it at a completely different angle than the way it's really being done now. I'm more probably the Uber of what the taxi industry was,
That's a great metaphor. I love that.
Yeah, it's not be perceived as like, this is insane. It's like the magician, the guy that tells people how the magician does
how the trick works.
Like, that's not cool. I get it, but at the same time, I always watch it, because I'm always like, I can't believe I thought that.
I love that.
You got to be kidding me. That's how he did it. But anyway. But it seems like to me that, the world we're in is becoming very individualized. And, the shed industry is a great industry, and that need will continue. We're lucky in a sense of this industry is not hinged upon AI or something like that, because let's face it, for a little while, hopefully our lifetime, these sheds will actually have to be constructed by people. So that's a good thing. However, the technology that's in place will change the landscape of the shed building industry. Things like Shed Hub and things like that are like, connecting people to databases of sheds and, the ability to have things listed on websites like that. It just creates, a more efficient industry in essence. There's only going to be so many sheds that are built per year. I don't know what the number is. I don't really care what the number is, but that nothing's going to change dramatically. I mean, let's face it, we went through COVID. Lumber was twice what we expected it to be, right? Guess what? My business tripled during COVID. Tripled. Yeah. I couldn't manage it. We were booked 7 months out with the prices accordingly going up, based on the and didn't matter. Just didn't matter. So, this industry is very resilient, I think. It's a need. I shouldn't say a necessity. It's not a necessity, but for some people it is. They have a bunch of stuff and they got to put it somewhere. They want to have, everything organized, neat. So sheds, I think it's a strong industry. I don't see any problem. If anything, I think probably it's going to be growth because of you have the people working from home. They have to clear out whatever garage space, whatever it is. And everything's transitioning, right? It's transitioning to that. So sheds, it's, hinged on that as well.
It's storage at the end of the day. If it's sheds, you're selling storage. You're selling, space for excess materials and things that you have. And you have to house those things if you care for them.
Sure.
We are Americans. We like our stuff.
Yeah.
I know there's a modern day movement and has been for some time toward minimalism, and I don't hate minimalism. I understand trying to live minimalistic without things that you don't need.
Right.
What the beauty is, and I've said it on here before, we kind of serve, depending on what that minimalistic mentality is. If you take that as aggressive as, say, living in a tiny home from a minimalistic perspective, we're able to service that industry as well too. A lot of shed manufacturers can build tiny homes and
absolutely, and that's another boom for sure. But it's funny you mentioned as far as storage, but to the extent that people will go, I had one customer that we built a shed for. We went to this house, and I'm telling you, it was like hoarders. Like that show. Have you ever watched that? That kind of backyard, like corridors of stuff. Oh, we need a shed. The town is coming down on me. I have to organize this stuff. So okay, where do you want it? Whatever. We cleared the space. We built, I think it was a 8x12. And this was supposed to cure this person's problem of hoarding. So we left. I guess they filled it with whatever. But I'm telling you, the backyard had 30 times the amount of stuff that was going to fit into that one shed. Calls us back about 3 months later. I need another shed. I said, all right, no problem. We'll give you another, I still have stuff to put away. Long story short, we built 4 sheds for this person.
Oh, wow.
But the caveat here is that they paid at that time, I don't know what it was, but near $20,000 worth of sheds, right? To store probably stuff that was worth about $400. So this is the sickness that they will spend exorbitant amounts of money on storage fees, on, I pay $450 a month for this whatever unit, and I've been paying for the last 6 years. And I'm like, don't you understand? You could have thrown all that stuff out, whatever is in there, and bought it 10 times over that you keep. It's just such a weird
I read an article one time where it was talking about the average length of rental of a storage unit, and at what point it was a break even, that the average amount of
whatever the value
property, what the value was of the property ended up breaking even after a certain, and it seemed like it was around 2 years or 19 months or something.
I'm surprised it's even that long. Yeah. From what I see people storing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, unless you're putting an old car in it or something.
Yeah.
Antique car.
I get those kinds of things, or, some antique furniture from your grandmother that's worth, she has a vase that's worth, $80,000. Who knows? But I get it in those instances. But, generally it's just I don't know, crazy stuff, just
dishes and clothes and just excess
stuff,
and I can't help but think that I have heard that industry just completely morphs what we do, so that makes me believe that there's tons of opportunity still yet in the shed industry, because you're essentially trying to take that unit
Yeah.
and you're just trying to build it on site, or
Yeah,
you're trying to
and
make
that-
it mobile
and that's
and
one of
bring
the
it to their yard.
biggest selling factors a lot of times when I'm, people, or they'll have there's a company, I don't know if it's national, but pods, I don't know, those white pod type things that they get delivered for whatever reason you're moving. Sometimes it's construction. People will put their belongings in there for a while. But I've had people like, I've had this pod for a year and a half in my driveway, and I'm sick of it. I need a shed because I figure in 6 months I'll have paid for the shed if I can get rid of this pod. So yeah, it's a win-win in that sense.
Well, people work with, they buy from people they trust. What's your piece of advice? And I maybe asked you earlier, but I'll just kind of reiterate as we wrap up. What's your piece of advice for someone on the fence who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, who's thinking about investing into Shed Academy and learning how to do these things for themselves and be successful? Let's say they're on the fence, they're considering it. What would you tell them? What would your advice be today?
Well, I always go back to my own story. And sometimes, you feel lost, you feel like you don't have a particular skill that you are the best in, right? So the Shed Academy is going to provide you with that. You will become an expert in what we do. The particular shed that we build, you will become an expert at building that shed. You will become your own boss, essentially, which has its own, satisfaction. You'll be able to control your world. In other words, if your kid has a play or something at 2 p.m, well, guess what? You didn't book a shed on Tuesday because you knew at 2 you're going to be there for watch your kid in the play. So, it just gives you just a sense of well-being. For me, again, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've never worked for anybody. So sometimes people can't relate to how my mind works. But I can't imagine, having to be somewhere at a particular time and having some guy grumble at me because I was 10 minutes late. I just can't imagine living a life in that world of that. Oh, I didn't meet my quota because, now my manager's all over me. I can't. I'm I guess too independently I think that way. So, that's usually where I'm trying to convey that this is going to change if they're coming from that world of, as an employee. Not to say there's great places to work. I get it, but a lot of times it's not, and you're not getting paid anywhere near what you're worth or what you could be getting paid. And I'm providing them that window. I mean, it's like, here it is. I'm going to teach you something. I'm going to be, your mentor. And in the end, you'll have said, it's like being an apprentice for a mason or something, laying bricks. Well, there's going to be some old guy there that says, okay, this is how the consistency of that mortar has to be. This, that brick's a little off there, Sonny, whatever. But at the end, you're going to become a master mason or electrician or whatever it is. Well, that's the case here. It's another trade, another skill that I'm teaching that's going to have, lifelong, benefits for somebody that enjoys the business,
I appreciate all of your statements so much. A lot of them resonate with me individually. Ultimately, it's a reason for which I ended up independent. It's a reason for which I have not sold the podcast, even with offers early on. I appreciate those and those people. They're amazing, awesome. Thank you. But I love doing this, and I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it in a way that gives me the independence and the freedom that you talk about. I, too, share in your passion. And working for myself. I often say you're actually taking on more responsibility when you're not working for one company. You're working for a lot of people, actually.
No, it doesn't come with it. Believe me, it has its own, my mind doesn't stop. I mean, my wife's the first one that, tells me that.
Are we like twins? Gosh, right? Man, I feel like I know you.
I know, exactly. It's the same. But I also explain to her, it's like, listen, I'm only as good as what's booked in the next week or two. Like I have to be on this thing. I can't just hang out and know my check's coming, and it doesn't work like that when you're on your own business. So those stresses come with it. But when you're incredibly good at something, that also gives you your nervous system an ability to relax and just kind of go with your life a lot easier. So yeah, I'll take the stress of worrying about how.
That's right. You're going to be stressed either way.
Yeah, either way. But for me, I want to be the owner of my own future. I don't want to have somebody else dictating to me. Well, you know what? We're slow. I got to lay you off for a little while. No, I can't do that.
Choose your poison kind of thing. You'll be happy. You're happy and stressed either way. So might as well pick the one and ultimately you're working for yourself.
Yeah,
to make your dreams come true, not to make someone else's come true.
Yeah.
I appreciate all that. That's not to say there's not a place to be content and happy working for someone, because there is.
Of course, there is. I don't want to downplay that. Just not for me. Because I guess I was.
Me either, brother. Me either.
Yeah, exactly.
not unless I guess I run out of options.
Yeah,
there's my cattle call for some advertisers. If there's ever been one, you guys keep me doing this thing, and I'll keep showing you some love.
Yep.
Appreciate each and every one of you that do commit, and certainly those of you who listen in. I encourage you to support those industries, those businesses, those who come on here and those who advertise, by letting them know you heard about it through the Shed Geek. I appreciate that shout out. If you ever wondered how you could help me, I promise you that's one way that you can do that. So hoping to get a chance to meet every one of you guys. What a lot of people don't know is these things are done 8, 10, 12 weeks ahead of time. So me and my wife are actually getting ready to close on a small RV.
Nice. Awesome.
And our hope is to travel 6 months out of the year and meet every shed manufacturer, shed hauler,
what a great
shed dealer.
Yep. See the country.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself at the same time and making a difference, for your business. That's great.
That's right. So we're coming. We're coming your way. I just interviewed, I don't know if you remember She Shed Cheryl from the State Farm commercial where I interviewed her a few weeks ago.
I remember that crazy commercial.
That episode's coming out soon. Okay. And she actually made reference to what you were talking about. She said, your gift will make room for you. And we've been messaging back and forth through email, and I told her I appreciated that boost of confidence. And she said, it's from Proverbs, of course, and her mom had said it. So, John, I'm a fan of prayer on the podcast. Is it okay if I just take a moment to pray over the industry and your business and just wish you guys well in all that you do?
Absolutely.
Oh, real quick, if someone wants to find out how to get a hold of you or Shed Academy, where do they go?
Well, shedbusiness.com is my website, so you can go there. I believe there's a spot at the bottom where you can, there's a contact button. However, if there's somebody that's interested in, my course, they can just right there, just throw in their email. They're going to get, immediately, an email from me that's with really cool content. So, yeah.
I think it's great, man. I wish you nothing but the best. In any way I can be a resource to help you, by all means, happy to do so.
Awesome.
I think what you're doing is great, and I love the creativity.
I appreciate the
opportunity.
Such
a cool dude to meet, man, for sure. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for a relationship with John here today to have a conversation. Ask that you'd bless his business, his steps in every direction that he takes, and that he would remain fruitful and happy in all the endeavors that he's taken on, and that he'll be able to spread that entrepreneur leadership mentality throughout, and that others will be blessed by that, by stories we've heard even here today, starting their own business and feeding their family and just being able to make a living. Just ask that you'd bless the industry and continue to lead, guide, and direct us in each and every step that we take. We're so thankful for everything, and just ask that we can all be reminded today of your sovereignty and putting you first in all that we do in spite of all our failures. We ask forgiveness. In Jesus' name, amen. John, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.